Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then some information while we're waiting for the live feed to start. Representative Hall, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it's on. Okay. Good. Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody, for time this morning. We're going to take up several bills this morning. Let me just mention in terms of looking forward, we will not have a meeting next week. We're looking at the 21st and 27th. Since Monday is a holiday, we'll skip that and wait until Tuesday.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the date.
21st and 27th. Yeah. I'm not sure. They're checking on what room we'll be in, so it probably will be this room, but they're checking to make sure. Right. So the first bill we'll take up this morning is Senate Bill 34, relative to the parental consent for student participation in Medicaid to Schools program. And Representative Noble, did you have a motion for that bill?
Yes, I move to retain.
Do we have Representative Freeman seconds? Any discussion?
Yes. We weren't all that comfortable with the suggested amendment that was brought to the hearing. I think we need some more information on how the Medicaid to Schools works and how they're billing and such. We did request some information from Health and Human Services and haven't heard back yet. So I think it's best to get this right. And so retain is probably the best route.
Representative Freeman?
I couldn't have said it any better.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
The motion is to retain. Vice Chairman Noble.
Yes.
Representative Terry.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Freeman.
Yes.
Representative Litchfield.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Tenzar.
Yes.
Representative Morse.
Yes.
Representative Nato.
Yes.
Representative Cornell.
Yes.
Representative Murray.
Yes.
Representative Woodcock.
Yes.
Representative Hall.
Yes.
Representative Luno.
Yes.
Representative Selig.
Yes.
Representative Kluger.
Yes.
Representative Snodgrass.
Yes.
And Chairman Cordelli.
Yes.
18 yeas, 0 nays.
Great, thank you very much. We'll move on to Senate Bill 102. Make, it's retained.
Just retain. Oh,
Yeah,
great. Sorry.
Right.
Yep.
Force of habit.
Yes.
Senate Bill 102 is making informational materials regarding type 1 diabetes available on the Department of Education website. Kristen, Representative Noble, do you have a motion for Senate Bill 102?
Yes, I move OTP. Second.
Okay. Representative McDonald seconds the motion. Representative, discussion?
Yes. I think it's important for parents and teachers to be aware of what the signs are for type 1 diabetes in children. It was a little distressing to hear that New Hampshire, I think they said, was 7th for type 1 diabetes in the country. So if it can be caught before a child ends up in the hospital, then that's probably a good thing. And that's it.
President McDonald?
Thank you. That was well said, but I will just add that in extreme cases, this could be life-saving information. It's not diagnosis material, but we're the education committee. Anytime we're educating, I think it's a good idea. So I like this bill.
Thank you. Further discussion, Representative Selig.
Thank you. I can defer to Representative. Okay. I also think this is a great bill. I have a child who, at the start of her high school career, lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks, and going through a huge amount of testing to figure out that process. I wish that we had had easier access to finding out information and warning signs. Thankfully, she does not have type 1 diabetes. There are other issues we were able to resolve, but it is terrifying as a parent when your child has unexplained symptoms, and providing parents with knowledge of what to keep an eye out for is a great way to help keep all of our children safe.
Thank you. Representative Cornell?
I just wanted to say that I think this is a good bill because it gives information out to parents of things to be aware of and to keep their eye out for, that they might not even notice, because of other things going on. You might just think that your child is participating in a lot of sports, so they're losing a lot of weight, or they're drinking a lot of water because it's hot out. But if you put everything together, it could be something very serious. So I think this is a lot of good information.
Representative Litchfield?
Thank you. I feel the intent behind the bill is wonderful. I absolutely understand the importance of it. I just feel very strongly that most people will not be going to the DOE website for medical information. I personally feel that this should actually be located on Health and Human Services. There is an area on the Health and Human Services website that discusses type 2 diabetes in depth. I would urge Health and Human Services to please add information about type 1 diabetes because it is equally as important. So yeah, I feel very strongly that it should not be on the DOE. There's nothing stopping schools at this point in time from educating parents about the importance and the signs of type 1 diabetes. So for that reason, I will be voting no today.
Representative Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With all the others who have spoken, I am enthusiastically supportive of the concept and the intent and the thrust of this proposed legislation. At the same time, I have concerns with respect to tweaks that I think could and should be made that are important in nature, but it has been indicated that they would not be received favorably. So I'm not going to shed any blood over this. Thank you.
Yes, Representative Morse.
Thank you. As another representative mentioned, I can kind of see this as more of a potential backdoor on the DOE website when I feel we should be focusing more on academic achievements than turning our schools into medical facilities by having, whether it's diabetes or anything else. You know, this is just a stepping stone in the wrong direction, in my opinion. Having it on the DHHS website is very supportive of that. I would just like to keep the separation of DOE from medical-based things. Thanks.
Yes, Representative Ao.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with all of you quite a bit. I'm not against education on this, but I believe just a slight tweak on like line 12, instead of may, put shall, only being a link to an existing related resource. I'm not against the Department of Education giving a link to that and to the HHS, and but I think we should I'm trying to be respectful, and I don't want to not be against all of this, but it's just a slight tweak. I think we could be there, so I'm going to respectfully voting no.
Representative Woodcock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't going to jump in on this, but I have to take the chance. I understand the difference between the DOE and the DHHS website. However, if I'm a parent or a young parent, I may be more, the first place I'm going to look is at the DOE or education or my school website. I don't think I'd ever even think about going to DHHS. I'd be thinking about, geez, these kids in school, what's the first thing I can check? So I think it's appropriate. It would be nice if it was on both websites, but I clearly think it's appropriate to be on the DOE website. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Representative Morse?
Thank you. Just to follow up. So I'm a parent of 2 kids, and I wouldn't look on the DOE website for anything medical with my children. I would take them to the pediatrics, and I would go from there. And if I really needed something, I'd look on the DHHS because that's exactly what they're meant for. The DOE is meant for education, not medical. Thanks.
Representative Hall?
Okay, sorry. I would say this is no harm, no foul, right? I mean, if you put it on the DOE website and you're not willing to go to that website to get information medical, then so be it. That's fine. But those that might, if even, or one parent, it's worth it. So I will be voting for it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also concur with the sentiment. I had a recent medical need for one of my children, and the very first thing I did actually was go to the DOE website to figure out how to negotiate conversations with the students and teachers and the team that needed to be involved in that. So I will absolutely support this.
Representative Selig?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I think it's important to have this on the DOE site. I think also it makes sense to have the DHHS site updated, and to the extent that members across the table want to bring forward a bill for that in the 2026 year and would like co-sponsorship on that so that we have a bipartisan effort to make it on both sites. And maybe on the DHHS site, there's links for how to get additional help, but DOE is just for your information. I would be more than happy to work collaboratively on that.
Thank you. And I would just say that the bill states that there's to be consultation between the departments. So we could ask the Department of Education, could you request DHHS to also include that on their website? Because I'm sure it's DHHS who will be coming up with the actual language.
I agree. I think both and is always a better proposition.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Motion is ought to pass. Vice Chairman Noble,
Yes.
Representative Terry,
No.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Freeman,
Yes.
Representative Litchfield,
No.
Representative McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Tenzar,
No.
Representative Morse,
No.
Representative Nato,
Respectfully, no.
Representative Cornell,
Yes.
Representative Murray,
Yes.
Representative Woodcock,
Yes.
Representative Hall,
Yes.
Representative Balboni. Oh, blue no, sorry. Yes. Thank you, Representative Balboni. Representative Selig,
Yes.
Representative Kluger,
Yes.
Representative Snodgrass,
Yes.
and Chairman Cordelli.
Yes.
13 yeas and 5 nays.
Is there a minority report?
Who's rep? And it'll be, the motion will be ITL, I take it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. You're waiting for a word from OLS. Okay. So as soon as we hear back from OLS that the amendment is ready, we'll reconvene. We can take a brief recess while we're waiting for that amendment.
Okay, well, go somewhere warm.
A time frame? Are we talking this morning, this afternoon,
Oh, no, this morning.
before supper?
Yeah,
or
they had
after
said,
Happy hour or something?
it was about 40 minutes ago. They said 45 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, call.
we have the amendment to Senate Bill 97, which is relative to the intra-district public school transfers.
We're missing a member.
Yes, here she comes. Do you want to do this? I'm sorry. I'll give the gavel to Representative Noble.
Opening the executive session on Senate Bill 97 FN relative to intra-district public school transfers, and I recognize Representative Cordelli for a motion.
Thank you. I move on to pass.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion from the maker of the motion.
Thank you very much. I would like to offer Amendment 1895H as ought to pass.
Is there a second on the amendment?
That's the old one.
Oh, that's the old one.
I'm sorry. Yes. 1980. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Representative Freeman seconds. Representative Cordelli, do you want to discuss the amendment?
Yes. This amendment does a couple of things. First, it incorporates provisions in House Bill 68, which you'd find on line 789, which includes the ability or the requirement that the superintendent approve a best interest request unless it fails to meet the requirements. That's the current amendment that we just received. In addition, included in this amendment are, let's see, where is it? Yes, in G, down on lines 29. This section is related to a reassignment where there is the establishment of a tuition rate between schools, and this really does not apply to an intra-district transfer request. So we added the language on line 29 about this being for an out-of-district resident placement. And then we also adjusted the several sections where it talks about accommodating a student. We removed the specific student-teacher ratio because the language in the lines 16 and several other places, I think line 10, for instance, on page 2, it talks about the ability to accommodate the student coming in as a transfer from another school in the district. And so I think that the ability to accommodate the student can go to a number of criteria. And I think if a school wanted to consider that that student coming into grade 4 and there was only one grade 4 classroom and they were at capacity, I think that this would meet that criteria as well. So those are the things that are encompassed in this amendment.
Representative Freeman, any comments?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I think Representative Cordelli wrapped it up quite nicely.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Representative Selig?
Thank you. I just would call attention to the number of emails and other public comments we've received opposing this bill, both in its form and in the amendment on the previous form where we had it as a House bill. It feels to me like a form of economic discrimination. It benefits wealthier people who have the ability to transport children and disadvantages those who don't.
Any other comment? Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In collaboration with the Senate on this bill as well as House Bill 68, this language really is amenable to them and includes the language that this body, the House, has passed in House Bill 68. Representative Cordelli drew attention to line 6 through 9, which was an important change to address a lot of issues. I see that in particular with school bullying. I know we've had extensive conversations about bullying, and to the point just made, it's, in my opinion, not disadvantaging any particular student if they, for whatever reason, it would be a hardship to switch schools. It's a hardship for anyone to have to provide transportation to another school within the district, but families are willing to take on that hardship because it's in the best interest of their student. This is the best interest law for a reason, and it's to address those persistent cases of bullying. So I would say those what needs outweigh perhaps the concern, and I wholeheartedly support the amendment in the bill and would ask you to as well. Thank you.
Representative Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the question is whether it is whether a parent is willing or not to take on the transportation. I would beg the question of whether or not it is morally correct to ask them to do so. When children receive transportation in the public school setting for a myriad of different reasons, especially with regard to special education, which is a required transportation method.
Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then I would ask the representative who just spoke, is it morally correct to continue to have a student in a school where they're persistently bullied when there is another school available in these larger districts? Again, we're not talking about small districts, districts like mine where there's 5 elementary schools a student could go to instead. Is it morally correct to keep them in that school where they're being bullied when there is another option available and the parent's more than willing to provide the transportation?
Representative Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question. So right now, can they, Representative McDonald, right now, can they do that if the superintendents or let's say the principals agree that, you know what, that school's better? Can they do that now? Can they move that child?
Thank you for the question. The best interest law is in existence, so to some extent that is possible. This modifies the best interest law, particularly on the amendment lines 6 through 9. If for whatever reason there is not a reason given to deny the request is accommodated automatically because it's the parent determining this is in the best interest. Of course, the superintendent can state any valid reason, any reason whatsoever in writing within 10 days, I believe. And this is just asking them to do that if there is a reason. If there's no reason, then just accommodate the parent, accommodate the student because it's in the student's best interest. It's not that difficult. It's not that hard. That's all this bill does.
Representative Hall.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I will be voting against it. I don't support the open enrollment. I know you mentioned, it was mentioned that the House passed this, House Bill 68. The House may have passed it, but I certainly didn't vote for it. So I don't support open enrollment as it's stated here, and so I'll be voting no on this. Thank you.
To be completely clear, this bill has nothing to do with open enrollment. This is intra-district within one school district. Open enrollment's another animal altogether.
Any other comments?
Vote on the amendment. Right.
Oh, Representative Cornell.
Online, it does say 18 to a district outside the district. So to me, that says it's not just intra-school district, but outside of the district also.
Do you want to address this?
Um,
Online.
I think,
29.
right, I think that is, right, that is part of the best interest statute. This is all within the best interest statute, so it's still possible for superintendent to approve an out-of-district best interest placement, and that's where the tuition discussion comes in between
Well,
districts.
Well, I understand that. It's just that it was stated that this had nothing to do with going out of a school district. It was all intra-school district, and that wasn't true.
Right, it is placed in the best interest section of law.
Representative Morse.
Thank you. So I would just like to say, didn't we just have testimony a few weeks ago about was it Conwell up north? Student was being bullied both by students as well as adults and teachers, to the point where they had to leave the district. What if the superintendent said no? You know, the kid's going to get sexually assaulted and harassed and abused and beaten because a superintendent says, well, I don't want you to move districts, even if the parents are willing to provide the transportation. I mean, it's going to force them out of the public school system, either to take an EFA or to go to a charter school. So I see this as a way to keep the money within the school districts. In the public schools, for situations like this, they have a backup plan. I mean, I'm all for public education. I want to make sure this works.
Representative Woodcock.
I'm not sure if Representative Moss may have been talking about the case that came down from Conway we were debating. That never came to the superintendent as a request. That's a litigated piece. I
didn't say that specifically. It was a situation.
If I may, it's never come to the school board for a request for a transfer or movement. It has to do with a much deeper layer than this, something very superficial as that. But if I get to my correct point, another point, if I may, Madam Chair, I have concerned, as my fellow cohorts here have said, the out-of-district piece, and was talking about the opportunity. What really bothers me, however, is the fact that this is a guarantee. You've taken any determination out of the superintendent's hands, the chief administrator of the school district, while making a decision. And you basically say, you will do this. This has to be done. So it's just, once again, we're now starting to create more laws that deregulate local control. In this case, not even local control, local authority to make a decision. There's no decision here. We pass this, you got to go. So I have concerns about those two or three pieces. One, the fact that it is moving youngsters in and out as an open enrollment piece. Two, it could cost school. And I understand my representative friend from Salem, the home of Granite State Potato Chips, that the bullying issue is something different. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. But that's not what we're talking about here. Thank you.
Representative Murray.
She wasn't born then, I don't think.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have another question too on the conversation around what is considered school capacity. If we're talking about the total census number in the building, we're talking about classroom capacity. It's not quite clear to me. I understand that the student to teacher ratio portion was removed from the bill, but I do have concerns that the word capacity could maybe be looking at the total construct of like the building's physical capacity. So for that reason and many other reasons, I will not be supporting it, but it is of concern how that is written.
Representative Cordelli.
I would just indicate that I think that the language about the ability to accommodate the student gives great leeway to the district.
Representative Dry.
Thank you. I agree. I had the same question about capacity, and I think I'm more comfortable with a broader interpretation because it changes from school to school, even in the districts that I serve. So I think that I was comfortable with that explanation.
Any other comments? Madam Clerk, we call roll.
The motion is to adopt the amendment. Vice Chairman Noble.
Yes.
Representative Terry.
Yes.
Representative Dry, yes. Representative Freeman.
Yes.
Representative Litchfield.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Representative Tenzar.
Yes.
Representative Morse.
Yes.
Representative Nato.
Yes.
Representative Cornell.
No.
Representative Murray.
No.
Representative Woodcock.
No.
Representative Hall.
No.
Representative Luno.
No.
Representative Selig.
Nope.
Representative Kluger.
No.
Representative Snodgrass.
No.
Chairman Cordelli.
Yes.
10 yeas, 8 nays.
Representative Cordelli, do you have another motion?
Yes, I would like to move ought to pass with Amendment 1980H.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I guess we'll move to the vote. Madam Clerk.
Just a moment. Okay, the motion is to pass as amended. Chairman Noble?
Yes.
Representative Terry?
Yes?
Representative Dry, yes. Representative Freeman?
Yes.
Representative Litchfield?
Yes.
Representative McDonald?
Yes.
Representative Tenzar?
Yes.
Representative Morse?
Yes.
Representative Nato?
Yes.
Representative Cornell?
No.
Representative Murray?
No.
Representative Woodcock?
No.
Representative Hall?
No.
Representative Bluno?
No.
Representative Selig?
Nope.
Representative Kluger?
No.
Representative Snodgrass?
No.
Chairman Cordelli?
Yes.
10 yeas, 8 nays.
Minority report? Who's doing it?
Megan.
Okay. Okay.
We'll conclude that executive session.
Yeah, so that's the last bill that we'll deal with today. We've had enough fun. So the next 2 days that are in play are the 21st and 27th. We are keeping an eye on what the Senate is doing with our bills. And just remind everybody to check check the Senate calendar, because it's easy to miss one of our bills that you might be interested in testifying on. So I'd remind you about that. And the other thing to remind you about is I see some people have brought bags in to clean out our drawers by the 22nd. Because we will be able to finish up here, but then we will be finding a new home for next year.
Since we're here so often, do you think we could push at one greater place that we could have a little committee room? Have a coffee pot?
I think,
And windows?
yeah, I think that they're trying to work all that out. I think they're trying to work out food
Yeah.
as an important criteria for the move. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with all that. But yeah, we have a request for any committee spacers. There's been discussion about where we can caucus, where we can put a coffee machine, all those types of things. We'll make sure that leadership is paying attention to. Representative Selig.
So, for those of you who are not aware, the Eddies, the New Hampshire Education Awards, were awarded since we last met. I want to congratulate all the winners, but especially Oyster River Middle School, which won as the Middle School of the Year. And I think we ought to all be proud of all of the winners, but I'm especially proud of that one.
Congratulations. Okay, with that, I thank you very much. And I would just ask the Republicans to wait for 5 minutes for some information.
Dad, I want to go out.
Just 1 second, let me just talk about Brett, I'll be right back.
Oh, of course. I can start passing these around, and I didn't tell them to just us. These are
We're the most important people in this room, so whatever.
right. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Yeah.
Dad, I want to go home. I'm fine. I'm fine with that. Wouldn't be the first time that you told me to say I have to go out.